Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Chris McDaniel's America. Of course, Chris is not with us. If you've been following him on Facebook, he's been dealing with his mother being in the hospital. The good news is, if everything went the way it was supposed to, she was going to be released today. So, wishing Miss McDaniel all the best, hoping that she's well and that we can have Chris back with us here on the show real soon. As you know, we took Thanksgiving off, and then last week is when everything happened with Chris's mother, and just scheduling issues prevented us from having a show last week. But I'm not alone this week. I'm joined by my good friend and coworker, Josh Guru Nichols. Josh is, of course, a reporter here at the Laurel Leader Call with me. Josh, welcome to Chris McDaniel's America.
Appreciate you having me, Jack.
You know, it's fascinating as we watch certain current events and things happening in the world today. Everyone can probably remember where they were when the moment they heard that Charlie Kirk had been assassinated. It's one of those moments that is now time-stamped. No matter where you were, who you were, what you supported, you might even be on the left side. There's a good chance that you can remember where you were the day that happened. Myself, I believe it was a Wednesday, and I was sitting in my recliner when I got a text message from a friend about it. And the first video, I was like, no way that's real. And then you see the next video and you realize, then you turn on the news and you realize this is very much real. And it's just, it's one of those moments that we just won't forget. Guru, I'm sure you were the same way. I think I was the first one that let you know about it.
Yeah, you were. And, you talk about that video, and once you see the actual video, it's something that, number one, for me personally, I can never unsee it.
Yeah.
And it is also something I didn't want to see a second time and never have. And it's, you talk about having that thought of, like right now, thinking about where you were when you found out. It's kind of like when the potential or the assassination attempt on Donald Trump happened in Pennsylvania. Mm-hmm. I remember exactly where I was. I actually was in the process of buying a car and got a text message in a similar fashion, found out through through a text message from a family member. And it was like, my thought in regards to Trump was like yours and Kirk's is that there's no way. And then when every outlet across the country is, releasing it, and it's just like, good Lord, man. I mean, what is going on? And there's not even one word that we can use to describe what happened in the assassination of Charlie Kirk, one of the, never meeting him in person, but has to be one of the most likable people that was on the earth, and one of the most genuine as well.
Yeah. All he wanted to do was debate. He wasn't, people said he was hateful or he was this. And that's ridiculous. The man was a true Christian. If you listen to the way he spoke, you knew he was a true believer. He wasn't one of those people that get up there and pretend because the camera's on. That's who Charlie Kirk was. And the fact that he was willing to sit across from anyone, have a debate, and be cordial with people. And they weren't always cordial with him, but he always tried his best to keep it, cordial from his standpoint. It's something that I think a lot of people, especially some of the folks who weren't as familiar with Charlie Kirk, have come to find out now that we lost something truly special. I had only really, I think, realized a little bit about him. I knew who he was, but I hadn't seen enough to understand him until maybe a few months before his death. And I think it came down to his college is a scam deal where he was talking about that. And I was like, he's making some actual good points here, because you've got all these kids going off and getting these worthless degrees and not being able to find a job afterwards, despite getting into mountains of debt in the process. So that's what first turned me on to him, and it was tragic. Well, today, his alleged assassin, Tyler Robinson, made his first in-court appearances. And if you want to hear more about why it took so long and why maybe you didn't get all the information. You can check out the latest episode of the Right Side Radio Show that I put out this morning. It's on all the podcatchers, Apple Podcast, iHeartRadio, Spotify, Spreaker, Amazon Music. So you can find the Right Side right there, because I break down why it took so long, and why you weren't maybe getting as much information, because there's some folks out there that were questioning whether or not why the judge may not want him shown in handcuffs, in shackles, in the courtroom, and things like that. And it's simple. He's trying to and it's going to be hard. He's trying to find an unbiased jury, because this is going to be a jury trial. It's going to be difficult to find an unbiased jury because, as we just talked about at the beginning, who hasn't heard about this event? And I do not envy the prosecutors and the defense there in trying to find a jury pool, because to me, this is going to be a very difficult jury to field. I know I couldn't serve on it because my first thought, the kid's guilty. It would be a much easier case if he had confessed. But that's also one of the things that started to get people to go down this rabbit hole of various conspiracy theories in the Charlie Kirk case. One is that Tyler Robinson's not the shooter. Tyler Robinson didn't kill Charlie Kirk. That conspiracy theory has been floated out there, and part of the reason they ran with that conspiracy theory in the first place was the fact that Tyler Robinson, there were some that say, he didn't look like the guy going up the stairs. Well, it was a blurry security camera, and he had stuff pulled down. He kind of did look like him, but it was hard to tell. But there were folks out there that were trying to make that argument that, it didn't look like him. Then there are others that are saying because we didn't see anything about this case for as long as it took for him to get there, that was further proof that he's just the patsy. There's also been questions about what do you refer to his roommate? I guess we'll just say roommate, but apparently roommate was transsexual and they were involved together is the roomie. They say that nobody knows where that person is or have heard from. Prosecution probably knows where that person is. There's a lot of, there've been questions, and that's led down to a rabbit hole of conspiracy theories. And it's interesting and it got me to thinking. I wanted to talk about why it's so easy for us to accept conspiracy theories, why it's so easy for us to go down that rabbit hole in the first place. And I'm not saying that there's not conspiracies out there. I'm not saying that there haven't been times where you can look up and say that, okay, maybe this is conspiracy. But I want to deal in conspiracy fact, not theory. Present me with evidence. Show me that this conspiracy is real, and I'll listen. But right now, this is all the evidence points back to Tyler Robinson being the shooter. Everything that I've looked into in this. Now, I know that there are some other talking heads out there like Candace Owens and others who have thrown out their own conspiracy theory about who killed Charlie Kirk or who had him killed. Again, there's no facts in any of that. It's all good talking points. It's those things, Guru, that, again, it's easy to latch on to. I'm sure yourself, you've gone down some conspiracy theory rabbit holes in your lifetime.
Oh, absolutely. When I hear conspiracy theory, first thing that pops in my mind is, did we actually land on the moon?
Yeah, that's when people talk about it.
The JFK assassination. We can go on and on about that. But as far as, the case of Tyler Robinson and whether or not he was or was not the shooter, right now, like you said, most of the evidence points directly at him. Whether he's confessed to it or not, at this point is irrelevant because he's going to stand trial for it. And, but right now he's innocent until proven guilty.
Yeah.
We're not saying that he is guilty. You started off by saying alleged Charlie Kirk assassin.
Yeah.
That's an alleged thing. And, in our line of work, we've been dealing with this on a local level here this entire week. Mm-hmm. And, it's just, my background is sports, is for listeners of Chris's show that have never heard or read anything I've written, but you know, I can correlate it like this. You know, we talked on our other podcast, our sports podcast for the Leader Call yesterday, about the college football playoff committee and some decisions that they made. And, you know, there's conspiracy theories there because from 1 week to less than a week later in 2 different polls, they changed some things up when we didn't agree with that. And to us, that was a conspiracy theory in college football.
Yeah.
Is that as grand of a scale as someone that assassinated a Christian man like Charlie Kirk? Absolutely not. But, you know, it is what it is, because whether it's news, whether it's politics, whether it's sports, in this day and age, the number one thing that people putting stuff online or out in the mainstream, they're just wanting clicks. They don't care if they're right, wrong, indifferent. They want to be first, whether they're accurate or not, and then they want clicks. And the people that you're talking about that are coming up with these conspiracy theories in regards to Charlie Kirk's alleged assassin, that's all they want. They're just wanting clicks and people to just read their drivel.
Yeah. I mean, Candace Owens, at one point in time, she was somebody that folks saw as a rising star amongst conservatives. Yet it seems like she's gone off the reservation a little bit, because it feels like she's just gone down conspiracy rabbit hole after conspiracy rabbit hole. And one of the ones, you know, when you watch this, it's unfair to Charlie's widow, Erica Kirk, because one of the ones was maybe even insinuating that she was in on some conspiracy hit. That's so unfair. I mean, show me evidence before you throw something out there like that. And it's one of those things that I felt like it was worth talking about, because, again, I'm not saying that there might not be something to one of these conspiracies. All I'm saying is give me the facts before I'm going to run off and go down this rabbit hole with you. I want to see facts. I want you to present me with something that shows me that, yes, this was some type of conspiracy. But she's gone down this whole rabbit hole that it was an inside job at Turning Point USA. I'm not sure I buy that, because I think Turning Point USA was frightened the moment this happened that their entire business was going to fold, because Charlie wasn't just the leader of it. He was Turning Point USA. He was everything to that organization. And it's a testament to those people that they've been able to keep it going. And I think Erica Kirk's shown some great strength. I mean, I remember watching her just days after. And that, you know, there were people that criticized her because they didn't think she teared up enough. You don't know how much she teared up behind closed doors. You don't know how much she has gone through to get to the point where she could stand on that stage and talk. We all grieve differently. You know, we all have different ways of showing our emotion. And to me, it felt really offensive to see them go down that rabbit hole to even insinuate the widow here. And it just, to me, I think that anybody doing that, it should be better than that. I think that's what really set me off on some of these conspiracy theories. It's one thing to say that Israel had a part in it, or, you know, some other foreign leaders had a part in it. I don't necessarily agree with that, but that's but when you're starting to try to turn in the man's widow, come on, you know, unless you're going to present me with proof and show me that Erica Kirk was involved, I'm going to cut you off right there.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, not only is that atrocious, but, you know, bringing up the point where, I mean, why would Turning Point USA want the man that created Turning Point USA, their leader? Why would they want him gone? What significance would that have in order of helping them further along their message with everything that Charlie Kirk had done up to that point? Makes absolutely no sense.
No, and there are things, and again, I don't want to even really bash Candace Owens here, but there are some that are saying that she was mad because she didn't get a bigger role in Turning Point USA. Others saying that, she wasn't as close to Charlie as I don't know. So, I mean, I don't want to speculate. I think Guru probably nailed it, that it's more about clicks and getting her name up. Because again, we see it all the time. We could do that if we wanted to. We could come on this show every week and talk about conspiracies we can't prove. Here's the thing about conspiracies, Guru. It's real easy to create one. You can create one right now. Know that it's bogus. And before the end of you telling me your new created conspiracy theory, you'll make it believable enough you're even going to question yourself about it. Be like, wait, that does kind of sound real. That's the whole appeal. You mentioned the moon landing faking. There's a whole appeal there to selling that narrative. Again, so there's a reason why that caught traction. We could get into JFK. There are a lot of good questions involving that case. And there are a lot of reason to believe that Lee Harvey Oswald didn't act alone or was even just a patsy. There are reasons you can see to that, but we still don't have hard evidence. We still don't have facts. So again, emphasis on theory. It's conspiracy theory. It's not been proven. And I think that's what's important for us, is to try to remember that, and also remember the people that are suffering like Erica Kirk, because it's just not fair to her and those children that were left behind to watch people just continue to drag this out the way that they have. I mean, they're going to have to watch this trial unfold. Erica Kirk's actually asking for cameras to be in the courtroom. She wants it televised. Her reasoning, and I agree with it, her husband's execution was public. So his trial should be too. I agree with that. It's going to be up to the judge on what he decides once they get to the trial phase. But I do think that it should be a televised trial, because I think Erica Kirk has a great point. We all, as we talked about at the start, we all saw what happened to Charlie Kirk. It was very, very public. His trial should be too.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, if O.J. Simpson's trial can be covered ad nauseum over every major news outlet that was around in the early 90s, I mean, like your point is absolutely 100% correct. Charlie Kirk's assassination was live on TV. Why can the Tyler Robinson case not be live on TV? I mean, and it doesn't have to be on every network. It could be on 2 or 3 or whoever wants to carry it. I'm sure there would be a lot of them that will take it, and there's going to be several of them that don't want to air it live. No. But I'd totally agree with Erica Kirk, and and what you said, Charlie's Kirk assassination was right there for the whole world to see, and Tyler Robinson's trial should be done the exact same way. I mean, going through the report that on the story that you gave me about his appearance today, man, they sure went way out of their way to make sure that nothing potentially happened to Tyler Robinson with all the security measures that they put in place there in Provo, Utah today. I have to give kudos to the justice system there in order for doing that with all the armed guards, with having a SWAT team vehicle parked out front. The only question I would have is that instead of putting a lock and chain on the front door, they apparently zip-locked it. I don't know what good they thought that was going to do. But, or put a zip tie on it.
Zip tie, yeah.
Zip-tied it shut. But other than that, I mean, because they know that somebody that loved Charlie Kirk is also capable of doing the same thing that allegedly Tyler Robinson did as well.
And I'll say this too, if he was just the patsy, as some have tried to insinuate, and it was a government job, then they wouldn't be going to that trouble, because they'd want the patsy to be taken out. At least that's my understanding.
Well, yeah, because you would think if he actually was a patsy and now he's going to go on trial, how can you trust him not to be a turncoat?
Exactly. So I mean, again, this whole thing, there's a reason why this one doesn't pass the smell test for me when it comes to conspiracy. I understand why there are people that want to believe it. I mean, especially when you have somebody like a Candace Owen that a lot of people like. A lot of people like, they respect her, but it just feels like she's gone down this path that maybe she was never deserving of the respect that she got, but it feels like she's gone down this whole rabbit hole. Look, if you turn on a show like Joe Rogan and they're sitting there talking about conspiracy theories, that's part of the fun. That's what they do. That's what they're known for. They're also not sitting there trying to project it like this is actually the way it happened, the way Candace is. They're just having a discussion about it. And I think that's where the problem comes in. Erica Kirk did address some of the conspiracy theories without naming Owens directly. She said, I do not have time to address the noise. My silence does not mean that somehow Turning Point USA and all of the handpicked staff that loved my husband and my husband loved them is somehow in on it. We're busy building. And you know what I thought? I thought these people are human. We are all grieving in our own ways, and they are trying to find answers to something that happened that was so evil. So again, that's when you see statements like this from Erica, you can understand this is leaving a mark, even though she's not talking. And I think that's the other. They're not saying a word. They're not condemning that. They shouldn't have to every time. Every time you speak a conspiracy theory, they shouldn't have to just come out and defend you. It's on you. It's a theory. It's on you to prove it. It's not on them to speak out and say that you're wrong, because if they don't have the evidence that you want, then you're just going to dismiss what they say anyway. And that's the bottom line. So, yeah, you want me to buy into the conspiracy theory? Bring me the evidence. Show it to me.
Anything, something other than just, offering up your opinions, because that's basically all it is a bunch of opinions. Yeah. We all have an opinion on pretty much everything. You and I can have different opinions on the exact same water that we're drinking right now. Yeah. And it's just our opinions. There's no facts to it. Yeah. I mean, because, our producer who's sitting to your right, my left, she might drink the same water and say, no, you're both idiots. It doesn't even have a taste to it.
That's fair. Again, you and I write a lot of opinion columns, as part of our job. We're very opinionated. We like to think when we're projecting opinion that we've researched it and we have some facts involved when we're putting out an opinion. This show is an opinion show. We're giving you opinions. We always encourage you to go and research, fact check what we tell you. Go look up some of this information yourself. We're a couple of knuckleheads ourselves, so I mean, there's a good chance we could get it wrong too. So again, go check it out. Knowledge is something that I think is so deprived nowadays, because we live in the 5 to 10 second soundbite world. Hey, let me go check out that new TikTok video. It's awesome. It lasts 30 seconds. Our attention spans have been eroded by the simple video concept. All of this we're starting to get into. So that's why I think folks that's another thing that leads into the fascination with it, because you probably saw it on TikTok. You probably saw the clip of Candace saying what she was saying, or someone else saying what they were saying. And because that clip stuck in your head, now you're thinking about it. Now you're trying to buy into the conspiracy theory, because you're not going to take time to go research anything else. You're just going to watch that You're going to go find another TikToker that's backing up what you said.
Well, let me say this, Jack, and I could take the term knucklehead for both of us, but I think the knuckleheads are the ones out there that don't fact check anything. Yeah. Being in the newspaper business for more than a decade now, I've had my fair share of phone calls of people that call and complain about something that they read in the paper. I've even had one that called one time before, well, I was told that this is what was in the paper. You're calling me to make a complaint about something that A, you didn't read. Yeah. B, that the person that read it, allegedly read it, didn't read the whole thing, because what you're telling me that was in there was never in there. Now, and going on the telling people to fact check, even in columns, when I write an opinionated sports column, I check facts on stats and things that I include in my column, because I'm not going to say that, Joe Schmo ran for 110 yards last week against Southern Methodist University when I didn't look it up. And guess what? He didn't even run for 100 yards. He didn't even play in the game.
Yeah.
It's so easy to just take a few minutes and go look at what we've been talking about in the case of Tyler Robinson, Charlie Kirk, excuse me, Erica Kirk. It's not hard to do. And you're right. And however, I'll correct you. I am not one of those that I'm not on TikTok. I'm not on Facebook. The only social media I have is X, and I only basically use it to check on looking something up that I'm interested in. I don't have any alerts that come in on my phone for anything other than a phone call or a text message. And, I don't buy into, I don't get any satisfaction out of a 5-second, 10-second clip. I mean, there's some TikToks that I've watched that my fiance will show to me that I think are hilarious.
Yeah.
Especially when they deal with golden doodles, which we have one. But when it comes to stuff that actually means something, like the assassination of Charlie Kirk, instead of just taking one person's assumptions and opinions to form a theory, look it up. Read more about it. Don't read one person. Don't read two people. You need to read at least three people who all have different, varying opinions on not just a Charlie Kirk subject, but pretty much any subject out there, period.
One time I went over to our host, Chris McDaniel's house, and I walk in, and he's got MSNBC on the TV, which, if you know, is a very, very liberal network. It's not a network that you can really... I don't think you can trust much out of that network because it's all spin. You can make the same argument for Fox News that it's all spin too. But MSNBC, definitely outside of the norm, what you'd expect to see a Chris McDaniel watching. And I asked Chris, I said, why are you watching MSNBC? He said, because it's important to see what the other side is saying. It's important to understand their arguments, because how can we form rational arguments against them if we don't understand their argument? And that makes perfect sense. That's something that I do myself. I've read liberal authors. I've watched liberal programming. Yeah, do I sometimes end up screaming at the TV screen? Absolutely.
Or turning it off.
Oh, yeah. And there are plenty of times I've turned it off because I just couldn't go down that rabbit hole with them. But it's still important to at least make the effort, to make the attempt. Am I going to sit down and watch hours upon hours of Rachel Maddow? Never. But does that mean that I won't watch a clip where she's trying to make a liberal talking point argument? Yeah, I will. The women of The View, none of us can stand them because they're really not that smart people. But I have turned it on when they were having somebody on that I had an interest to see how they were going to handle that. And there are times where I've watched it when I'm thinking, this is going to be great content from one of our shows. So, again, there's a reason to see what the other side's saying, to understand. And we've got to get away from this short attention span culture. And when I said we, I wasn't necessarily even talking about you. I'm just talking about society in general, that we have fallen down that rabbit hole. You know, I said it years ago when Twitter first came on the scene that I thought it was going to be a dumbification of our society because Twitter had that character limit. So people, instead of writing out A-R-E, they were just putting the letter R to say R. Instead of you're not spelling out the word, just putting the letter U because you're so worried about making sure that you get everything into your characters. And because of that, eventually, that was going to be the way some of these kids were going to write in real life. And lo and behold, it's happened. We see it now every day. So it's insane when I think about it. Are we getting close to the break? That's what I thought she was motioning there. So I think we can pause right here for a word from our sponsors. This is Chris McDaniel's America here on the Midnight Ride Network, your home for the anti-establishment movement.
Resort.
All right, guys, welcome back here to Chris McDaniel's America. And again, if you're just joining us, I'm Jack Fairchilds filling in for Chris McDaniel. If you've been following him on social media and you've seen the issues he was dealing with his mother being in the hospital, the good news is she's been improving. The hope and the prayers are that she is being released today. Whether she's released today or not, Chris obviously could not be here with us this week, but I am joined by my good friend and coworker Josh Guru Nichols as we've been talking for the last 30 minutes about conspiracy theories, and we kind of got into a discussion about society as in general, kind of losing our intelligence. And right before the break, I made the comparison about Twitter in its early days and the limited character, and how just putting the letter U instead of spelling out the word, or putting the letter R instead of spelling out the word, or even abbreviating words that have no business being abbreviated. You know, I mean, because how many times, that's one of the things that drives me crazy, Guru, when I hear somebody say, instead of saying celebration, they're like, we sellied, you know, or something like that, because they're trying to shorten the word, and the word doesn't need shortened. But it's because that's how they had to type it on Twitter or whatever the case. Now they speak that way, and it just drives me insane.
And not only that, but, you know, and for a lot of them, I mean, Twitter's been around for quite some time. And like you said, when it had the character limit of 120 characters, that was a way for people to get around and, like you said, to get their entire message, whatever it may have been, and to fit into those 120 characters by using one letter for a word or shortening, like people, I mean, PPL,
yeah,
and things like that, in which it made sense at the time, but then it did, because then the generation that was coming up, that was young, that was just starting out on social media, when they picked up on that, it carried over to every other platform. You can go look at Facebook, Instagram, MySpace, anything out there. Anybody that's listening probably doesn't know what MySpace is.
And Tom was our friend.
But, you know, it carried over. And to kind of go along with what you were saying, it is kind of a dumbification. And, you know, it made me think about how with, you know, I have a son that's 23, a stepdaughter that's 22, another son that's 23, another stepson that's 17. And I find myself, when I communicate with their specific group, that I will shorten things. I'll use the letter U. I'll use WYD for what are you doing, or WBY for what about you, and to talk to them at their level. Now that we're sitting here discussing this, whether that's a good idea or not, I don't know, but you know, that's the way they came up. Now, if you and I are texting, which can happen 500 times in a week sometimes, depending on what's going on at work, I mean, we're going to spell out full sentences. I'm going to make sure I have commas where they need to be. My punctuation is going to be correct. And it's because we're on the same level in what we do. And when I talk to you through a text message, I'm talking to you the way I'm talking to you right now.
But let me ask this, because again, my problem, if you want to abbreviate text, fine. You know, I can understand that. If you want to put LOL instead of laugh out loud, I get it. That's become socially acceptable in text message. But do you really want to say LOL when you're having a face-to-face conversation? Do you really want to use the letters instead of actually talking to each other?
No, because I'm actually literally going to LOL like you're doing right now.
Yeah, but I mean, you see the point. Kids do that now. They won't even laugh. They'll just look at each other after a check. Oh, LOL. And I'm like, but you didn't. So why are you saying that? It drives me crazy, but it does signify that we've gotten less intelligent as a society. Maybe not our generation, maybe not even the one directly behind us, but somewhere in there, we've seen ourselves get dumber. Maybe that's part of the reason why people can go down those conspiracy theory rabbit holes so much easier, because it's just so much easier to accept what's being said than actually go look anything up. But I mean, if we're going to talk about stupid things or stupid people, I think that's a perfect segue to talk about this next story. Because Mississippi Representative Bennie Thompson, he's not somebody I've ever been a fan of. At one point in my life, when I was still registered to vote in Vicksburg, Mississippi, he was allegedly my representative, but I don't think he's ever represented anything or tried to gain anything of benefit for me. But Bennie Thompson, of course, he's in the news again. And when Bennie Thompson's in the news, I can assure you, it's not going to be a good thing for Mississippi. It's probably going to be an embarrassment, because that's all he knows how to do is be an embarrassment. But he keeps getting reelected because they've gerrymandered his district to ensure that he'll be reelected every time. He's the top Democrat on the House Homeland Security Committee. And he decided, when they were having hearings and discussing the shooting death of a West Virginia National Guardsman in Washington, D.C., Guru, he referred to it as an unfortunate incident.
Accident, actually.
Did he say accident? Accident. Thank you. Yeah, unfortunate.
No, in this case, the unfortunate accident is that Bennie Thompson is in the position that he is.
Yeah.
This is one of the dumbest things that I've heard since the College Football Playoff Committee released its final rankings Sunday afternoon. I mean, you just explained how he is in the position that he is. And if you know the demographics of our state and the district that Bennie comes out of, you understand why he is there. But that doesn't make him any less than an idiot for calling something like this where somebody, is that what he's going to refer to the Charlie Kirk assassination next, as an unfortunate accident?
And I'm glad you corrected that, because accident's far worse than incident. Because I can promise you the person that shot him didn't accidentally shoot him.
Oh, did they accidentally pull the trigger?
Yeah.
Didn't know the gun was loaded either?
Yeah. It's crazy as you're talking about it. And this is all during hearings that they had, for Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem, in which Bennie Thompson led off the entire proceedings, asking her to resign. You first, Bennie. You first. Why don't you resign? Because, again, it's disgusting that you referred to this National Guardsman as an unfortunate accident. You are demeaning his death. Now, whether you agree with the National Guard being there or not, Bennie, that's irrelevant. What you should be worried about is the fact that this is an innocent life that was taken. But apparently you're not concerned with that, because you just think it was some kind of accident. It's insane, Guru, that this guy he was elected in the first place, and he continues to be elected. He is a true embarrassment to the people of the 2nd Congressional District of the state of Mississippi. He's an embarrassment to the entire state of Mississippi. If you remember, he was one of the ones, I think he was the chair of the January 6th committee, that he was trying to figure out a way to arrest our current president, Donald Trump. This guy has been an embarrassment from the moment he took office. He is absolutely one of the worst people in Washington, D.C. I would love for the Supreme Court to strike down the provisions that require his district to be drawn the way it. No, let's be honest. No district should be drawn by racial lines in the first place. They shouldn't be. Let's just draw common sense lines that make sense. This whole idea, because again, if you go to these northern states, they don't do it up there. They don't do it up there. They do it down here for a reason. And it's just, it's one of those things that has outlived its usefulness. We've lived in Mississippi our whole life. We don't view this as a racist state because we're here and we have interacted with people of other races our entire life. You and I both went to public school. And they were our friends. Still, several of them are our friends. I think you have even brought some into your home in times, youth, and tried to help them out. So it's one of those things where, again, I'm tired of past mistakes being held against the current population.
And, it's just, we are looked upon as the state of Mississippi. Damn, man, we're last in almost everything. And to have a dude like Bennie Thompson just to say asinine things like this in the position that he's in, it definitely does not help the state of Mississippi at all, Jack. And
no.
it makes us look worse than we even show in other statistical categories, just in education and obesity and things like that. And with, the alleged shooter being an Afghan refugee that shot 2 National Guardsmen, killing one, severely wounding the other, an unfortunate accident. It makes absolutely no sense.
Guru, you served in the military, correct?
Correct.
How would it have made you feel if you served during combat, you come back, one of your fellow soldiers was killed in action, and you come back and you see a U.S. congressman describe your fallen friend, your comrade, your fellow soldier, and describe what happened to him as an unfortunate accident?
I'm incensed by it right now, but I don't know. It reminds me of a master chief that I served under when I was in the Navy. He was from the South. He was a black gentleman, and he told me in a discussion that was taking place over something that happened under his, watch or whatever, because he was our highest ranked enlisted member. Mm-hmm. And he told me that he could perceive me as a racist because I had a shaved head, I had visible tattoos, and I was from the state of Mississippi.
And that's, again, and why don't we call that racist? When he makes a generalization, he's making a stereotype.
How would it have gone if it had been roles reversed? If
you would have been a racist. You would have been a racist.
Not only would I have been a racist, I probably would have been put in the brig.
Yeah. And that's part of the problem is until we start admitting that it's not just white people that can be racist, racism's never going to go away. But there are folks out there that want to argue that a minority can't be racist. We've had this discussion on this show before, Chris and I have, and that's one of the most absurd things I've ever heard, because of course they can. If you're judging somebody based on their appearance, based on the color of their skin, it doesn't matter if you're black, white, Indian, Asian, doesn't matter. You're a racist. Because you're just looking at their race and using that as a justification to say whatever you want.
Well, think about it in that instance. Not only was it a racist comment by that master chief because our skin colors are polar opposites, but because of where I'm from. I've had racist comments, which I consider racist. I don't know what the technical term might be, but I've had white people, because when I was in different parts of the country, stationed in the Pacific Northwest, up in the New England region, that treated me and acted different towards me once they found out where I was from. Mm-hmm. And that's from people of the same skin color. And, you don't have, in my opinion, you don't have to have a different skin color than a person in order to be racist to anybody. I've had more racism from white people directed toward me in my life than I have from every other skin color out there combined. I mean, like you said, when I graduated from Laurel High School, I was in the minority. Mm-hmm. We were approximately 25 to 30% white. Mm-hmm. Now it's pretty much an all black school. Mm-hmm. Nothing wrong with that. It's just the way our county is set up right now. Mm-hmm. And man, and like you said, I have one of my sons that I spoke about earlier. That's 23. He's a lineman for a local electrical co-op. He's a black young man, and I've raised him since he was 15 years old. We talk regularly. He's always at the house for Thanksgiving, Christmas. Mm-hmm. He'll come over periodically, and I mean, he's my son. And he's no different than my biological son, who the two of them were best friends growing up from the time they met in second grade. And through my time when I was fortunate enough, when I was in a different line of work and, my kids were still coming up through high school, I had 5 or 6 other black teenage boys that lived in my house that I helped house, that I helped clothe, that I helped. I fed them 7 nights a week. If mm-hmm. they needed a little, like you hear a little bit of walking around money, I would give them some cash if they needed. Yeah. Granted, we use Cash App. We're in the digital age. I didn't have to actually go to the ATM and make a withdrawal. But it's just a skin color. I mean, we're all human beings. We're all people.
We all bleed if cut.
Exactly. And if you don't, then you're probably an alien.
Conspiracy.
Maybe that's what Bennie Thompson is. When somebody needs to cut him and see if he bleeds.
We're not condoning anyone cutting a U.S. congressman. Just be clear. Just making a joke. But no, it's just Bennie should follow what he's asking Kristi Noem to do. He should lead by example and resign, because he's showing he is incapable of being a U.S. representative. And speaking of somebody that looks like they're incapable to do their job, of course, I know that you followed the presidential race last year, like most Americans. You became familiar with old Timmy Walz. Timmy. He's an interesting character. I remember when he first came on the scene, I thought he was going to be a threat because, I was like, oh, he might be folksy and get that Midwestern charm and help the very unlikable Kamala Harris, be able to win. Little did I know he was going to be worse than she was, because the guy came across as stupid. I mean, and I'm not being mean when I say that's my honest opinion of how he was when I saw him on camera. He did not look like the folksy guy I thought he was initially. He looked like the clueless guy. And now we're starting to find out that he was kind of clueless, because if you look at what was going on in the state of Minnesota, it has been at the center of national headlines over a massive fraud scandal that experts are saying will cost taxpayers over $1 billion. It's crazy when you look at this and exactly what was happening. Because, again, Guru, they were funneling money. I believe it was to Somalia where they were funneling money, and it was Somalis that were doing it. And now Tim Walz, of course, he's, looking at possibly running for a third term. There's several people out there saying that his chances of winning a third term have been cut dramatically. It probably should be down to 0, but I mean, who knows? The scheme that has garnered most of the national attention involves the nonprofit Feeding Our Future, which misappropriated $250 million in COVID-19 funds. But the fraud within various government agencies in Minnesota goes far deeper. So it seems like they're only scratching the surface with this Feeding Our Futures case. And it's frightening to think about, because again, we saw fraud here in our home state in Mississippi with the welfare scandal that happened here. Not saying it wasn't bad, but this seems to be inexcusable
We're
on
billions,
how bad it was.
Billions, not millions. Billions of dollars.
How do you not see? Because eventually in Mississippi, somebody saw something and said something, and it came. This went on for how long? And there were red flag after red flag, and they ignored it. At some point, you do. And I'm not saying that Tim Walz had anything to do with the actual scandal. Don't believe that he did.
But it happened under his watch.
Thank you. It happened under his watch. He is the figurehead of the state. At some point, he has to take the responsibility for it. Am I wrong in saying that?
Absolutely not, because, I mean, you think about, going back to sports, especially on the collegiate level, when scandals happen and you go, well, I'm not going into detail, I'm not throwing names out, do your research. Go look into the Baylor football scandal and what happened there. And ultimately, who paid the price with their job for that? Mm-hmm. The head football coach. Go back to Penn State football and the scandal that came out there.
Destroyed a legend.
Who ended up losing their job over that scandal? The head football coach, the person that was in charge of things that were happening underneath them. Same way with Timmy. Mm-hmm. He should be the one that pays the price for not being able to have this under control. Because you cannot tell me that there is absolutely, unequivocally, no way that he knew absolutely nothing about this.
And if he didn't, then he's incompetent.
He definitely shouldn't be there if he didn't know anything about it.
I mean, it's one of those things where you look at some of the things that were bought. They bought luxury cars, including a 2021 Porsche. I mean, they bought lakefront property. They were being very much in the open with what they were spending on. Co-conspirators were also said to have sent brazen text messages to each other, flaunting stacks of cash and their luxury lifestyles. So again, this stuff was happening right there in plain sight. And the fact that this happened, I mean, so yeah, were they sending some of it to Somalia, to their home country? Yes. But they weren't sending all of it because they were holding on to some of it for themselves. Maybe we could buy that they were getting away with it if all of it was leaving the country, but it wasn't. It wasn't. And the fact that right now, Tim Walz is still even considering running for a third term, let alone having the belief that he could win a third term. Minnesota, I'm looking directly at you. If you're in Minnesota watching this show, if you're dumb enough to vote for this guy again, you get exactly what you deserve. It's that simple. The guy is not, the guy couldn't even tell the truth about when he went to China during the presidential campaign. During the vice president's debate, he got thoroughly handled by J.D. Vance. In one of the first sit-down interviews that Kamala Harris gave, if you remember, Guru, they brought Tim Walz in. We all thought, I think I did the show that week with Jim Sigelski, our boss and owner of the Laurel Leader Call and the Midnight Ride Network. I remember talking to him, and we both theorized Tim Walz was coming on that interview so he could be the one to answer the tough questions to avoid the Kamala Harris word salad. Tim Walz just sat there like this. He didn't say a word. Even when Kamala went off on her word salad, he didn't interject. He didn't try to help because he wasn't bright enough to. He actually is a worse candidate than she is. And she's the worst presidential candidate in the history of our country. Plain and simple.
And it's crazy while you were talking, I read further into this report with Walz. It says that he was responsible for putting into place the commissioners of the different departments who were allowing the money to go out. So if he put these commissioners in place, he knew something.
Yeah.
It doesn't say alleged. says he was responsible for putting the commissioners of these different departments into place, and they were allowed to put the money wherever they put it.
In the Feeding Our Futures case, 57 people have been convicted. Have already been convicted. 13 are awaiting trial. 2 have been acquitted, although 1 was convicted in a related jury bribery case, and 5 remain on the run, and 1 is dead. So again, you look at how many folks were involved in this. 57, 13 awaiting trial. That gets us up to 70. And then you've got 2 that were acquitted, 72. 1 that was convicted. That one is one of the 2, I'm assuming. 5 that remain on the runs. Where are we at now, Guru?
77.
77, and 1 that's dead. So 78 people that we know of. Guru. There might be more.
And there's 78 people involved, and Walsey didn't know anything about it.
I mean, it was very, very elaborate. Again, this is one of those things that this scheme, if you listen to acting U.S. Attorney Joseph Thompson, he said at the time, to be clear, this is not an isolated scheme. From Feeding Our Futures to housing stabilization services and now autism services, these are massive fraud schemes, form a web that has stolen billions of dollars in taxpayer money. Wasn't isolated. We talked about Feeding Futures, but there was also a housing stabilization service that was exploited. And then autism services, which again, Tim Walz has a son that I believe is autistic. I know he had something. I believe it was autism. Apologize if I'm wrong. I know he had a mental issue of some, I believe it was autism.
I mean,
shouldn't he take?
Oh my God! I mean, we're talking about people in other countries that are starving. We're talking about homeless people here in our country, and then we're talking about defrauding a thing that's helping fight people autism.
Yeah.
I mean, all of it is for people in need. I mean,
and 90% of
only in America can you find somebody that's a complete jerk to be able to continue to stay in office at the highest power at his state level.
Yeah. And in the 3 cases that we mentioned, 90% of those charged are of Somali descent. 90%. And remember, Tim Walz got offended because Donald Trump said that they were Somali. Oh, that's going to cause danger for them. Get over it, Tim. Trump called you a retard. Maybe he shouldn't have, but maybe you shouldn't act like one too at the end of the day.
Maybe Trump wasn't wrong.
Yeah. Well, Guru, thank you so much for filling in this week. It's always easier to be able to do one of these when I have somebody to bounce off of. Not only that, I appreciate the fact that you took time to look into everything that we were going to talk about and gave great feedback with me.
I appreciate you having me on the show, Jack.
Well, guys, this has been Chris McDaniel's America. And before we go, again, we just want to send our well wishes to Miss McDaniel again. We hope that when I speak to Chris later today that you were released. We're praying for you. Hope that you're doing well. This has been Chris McDaniel's America here on the Midnight Ride Network, your home for the anti-establishment movement.
Looks like you've been sleeping well.
Megan, he's back. The My Pillow guy.
And you're looking good.
Still feeling good.
Well, just when you thought it couldn't get any better, we've got the best pillow ever, My Pillow 2.0.
Wow, it's so soft and smooth.
It's cool to the touch. How did you do that?
Well, we took My Pillow's patented fill and combined it with this new technology that we didn't have back then when I invented My Pillow to bring you the best pillow in history, My Pillow 2.0. Just like all of you, I never imagined that My Pillow could get any better. That's why I haven't changed it in nearly 20 years. Then I heard about a revolutionary new technology, and I knew I had to bring it to you all. My Pillow 2.0 is truly the next generation of My Pillow.
The My Pillow 2.0 is cooler and softer than the last My Pillow. It is so comfortable to sleep on at night. I look forward to going to bed, and I wake up well rested in the morning.
Sleep is all about temperature and height. MyPillow 2.0's patented adjustable fill is going to give you the exact individual support you need from your head to your bed. And now here's where it gets even better. We've all experienced those temperature-related sleep interruptions where you get too hot, you toss and turn, you flip your pillow over to the cool side. Well, all that's gone with my brand new MyPillow 2.0 cooling fabric that's made with temperature-regulating thread.
The best sleep just got even better. Whether you have a MyPillow or not, you need to get the brand new MyPillow 2.0. Call or go to MyPillow.com now. Use your promo code, and for a limited time when you buy one, you'll get a second one absolutely free.
You're sleeping even better.
And cooler, too.
And you're looking good.
Feeling good.
I knew you would.
Visit MyPillow.com.